Listen to the unofficial voice of World Cup 2006, brought to you by Times Online and Avalon in association with the new Dodge Calibre.
Is it? Do you like England?
Yeah.
England? Do you want England to win the World Cup?
Yeah.
And, can you say come on England?
Come on, England.
That was my son, Ezra, 19 months, doing his first bit of punditry.
Oh, I'm glad you've said that. People will be thinking I started drinking again. Anyway, hello, and welcome to Baddiel and Skinner's World Cup podcast.
On today's podcast, we find out how Steven Gerrard used to be in Doctor Who, how Brazil and England are basically the same side, and why Jonathan Ross thinks that the Polish goalie should present Deal or No Deal. Play that crazy banjo, Skinner. I thought you might say welcome back, something like that. That's what I was hoping for.
Okay, sorry, I had no idea. I was thinking, oh God, what do we do now? So anyway, welcome back, David.
That's David.
Yeah.
You must remember.
It's
only been
I'm
2
calling
days.
you Dave. I usually call you Dave, but I don't feel I know you so
felt
well.
it, yeah. It was a bit formal.
Dave's been away. He's been to England.
Yeah, he went
which I was
home.
slightly resentful about. I was left in Deutschland.
Yeah, no. So I had a good trip back. Slightly odd thing happened on the plane, which I'm now slightly embarrassed about. Which is I was in business class. So I was quite near the front of the plane. Yeah. And there's that bit where everyone starts getting off and there's always a huge queue of businessmen waiting and, you're stuck there. And I always spend ages doing that anyway because I think I've forgotten something, so I spend ages looking for things. And while I was looking for something, in front of me, all through the flight, there'd been a woman with her baby and her 2-year-old girl who had been screaming the whole time. Oh. And I was looking for things, and on the floor, I thought there's a turd on the floor. There's quite a big human turd on the floor.
That's what it's called, business class.
Yes, I would have done a bit of business on the floor. I honestly thought, I can't believe it, and I've probably been sitting there the whole time with that right near my foot.
That's outrageous.
So I called a stewardess over, and I said, look at that. And she said, what? I said that on the floor. What? Look at it. She said, yeah, we see those every day. I thought, what?
Well, it's a frightening business.
And I said, what do you mean? She said, it's a bread roll, sir.
Oh, what?
And it was a quite long bread roll.
How could you have a mistake?
She picked it up. Thankfully, she told me it was a bread roll before she picked it up. Otherwise, I'd have been horrified. And all these people are like long queue of businessmen waiting to get off, all really annoyed with me.
Did you make a bit of a scene?
Oh, I made a big scene. Because I honestly, I was disgusted and horrified.
But if it was as big as a bread roll, who do you think had done it? The mother?
Well, I was a bit confused because I thought it looks very long and big for a young child.
Yeah.
But I was so
and
horrified.
And also, there's lettuce and Gruyere cheese hanging out of it.
Well, that can't be.
I know.
Some of that stuff's not very digestible.
But for it to come out in a specially sliced section.
No, it was very embarrassing.
Oh, man.
So anyway, I had a nice time at home, and it was quite nice watching...
I didn't ask.
Oh, didn't you? I thought you might. It was quite nice watching English television, because we're out here.
I'd love to watch the football with a bit of English commentary on it for a change.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'm just going to sit and watch English football the whole time, but in fact, because I've got kids, that didn't happen. Ghana, Czech Republic, halfway through it, my daughter wanted to watch a DVD.
What?
So I put the DVD on, and I thought I really want to see what happens. Yeah, but I thought I really want to see, because you know what kids are like, they just won't stop complaining. And she actually started saying, right, you can watch another 10 seconds of football, and then I'm going to watch my Bratz Girls DVD. So eventually I put that on, and then when she wasn't looking, which is actually true, on my master control I switched it back to the football, and she started saying, what's going on? I said, the TV, there's something wrong with the TV, Dolly. Dolly's the name of my daughter. Don't worry, it'll switch back in a minute.
Not the TV Dolly, it's a young Japanese woman who operates the television for you.
Not her. And so I would give myself like 2 minutes of watching it, and then I'd switch it back and say, there's something wrong with telly.
What happened to the days when children were seen and not heard?
Well, they've gone,
If I'd have said to my old man halfway through a football match, actually, I think I'd like to watch, what's it called? Brat Girls.
Well, I don't think you'd have said that, would you? You'd have said, I'd like to watch that public information film about yeast or something, whatever it was on in your day.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have happened.
No, I imagine he'd have hit you.
He'd have hit me with the television.
Yeah, but I can't do that, so I just had to pretend that there's something wrong with the television.
You're so modern. But it must have been good to watch English football coverage.
It was, yeah, it was. You going to read out the Clive Tilsley email?
Oh God, yeah. We had a email. We're having lots of emails now, and God bless you all for that. This is from a guy called Chig69.
Chig?
Chig, yeah.
Okay.
And Chig says, He said he really misses Barry Davis's commentary on this World Cup. He could always be relied upon to introduce some obscure literary references and enjoyed his comical insistence in latter years to pronounce the players' names correctly. Now we're stuck with Jonathan, I've inhaled too much helium and may explode Pierce, and Clive, Mr. Manu, Tildesley. I love the way fans do that. They decide that somebody's biased towards one team.
I think that people do think that about Clive Tildesley.
Do they? He says of Clive Tildesley, he says, the latter can't go through any game without making a reference to his beloved Reds. I can guarantee that if England are losing 1-0 in the last few minutes of any match during this World Cup, he'll make a reference to that night in Barcelona. I think I'd rather be stuck with the German coverage.
You know, I agree with him about Barry Davis. I'm sure I've told you this. I've got this thing about Barry Davis, that he was the most lyrical commentator. I'll tell you that I think I particularly love about Barry Davis. And I wasn't even watching the telly at the time because I and you were there. But the moment I really think sums it up for me about Barry Davis is when Stuart Pearce took the penalty in 1996. Against Spain. And when I watched it again on the telly, what Barry Davis says is his chance to erase the memory of Turin. And what I love about that is he doesn't say the memory of that penalty in Italia 90. He says Turin, which makes it sound like a battle, like a piece of history to me. And I've always really loved him.
Do you know I'm getting slightly tingly now?
Yeah,
when you say that.
I love that.
And there's that moment, I know I always mention this, but I've got into double tingle. And that's that moment when Gary Lineker, after Rooney played his first game for England, Gary Lineker, when it came back, said, I think we might have found one.
Yeah, if you've got a moment of commentary, because people go on about commentary and the stupid things that commentators say, but those moments where they get it right and you remember them and you tingle about them for years afterwards, if you've got any of those moments, why don't you send them in?
Yeah, but please don't send any Coleman balls.
No
type
Coleman
stuff, I hate
balls.
that. We actually recorded, didn't we, at the England-Trinidad-Tobago game, quite a special little moment. And this gives me the tingles as well. Let's play that.
Okay.
Well, in the case that we're witnessing a very historic moment here, which is the entry of Wayne Rooney into the World Cup, and the moment Sir Alex Ferguson has an aneurysm.
Is that Lennon as well? I wish he was standing on the side with one of those big bandage foot like you get in the side. Handball! Penalty, was it? No. Oh my God, Rooney's coming up!
Yes, that was us getting very, very excited at Wayne Rooney coming on. I didn't even realise we were so excited. That's something about having a dictaphone with you. You hear yourself losing it, and I never realised it sounded like that.
No, well, I've started taping myself having sex now, and it's a very similar experience.
Do you shout, Rooney's coming on?
I do sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, good. He's not with you, is he?
Well, I'm thinking of Mickey Rooney,
Yeah,
the
cool.
all-round entertainer.
Well, you're an all-round entertainer.
It just
in bed. I
slows me
know
up.
that.
It slows me up a bit if I think of
Yeah.
him. Hey, Michael Owen, what's gone wrong? Is it 'cause Peter Crouch is a little bit too long? When you stand beside him, it brings to mind a dual carriageway lane closed sign. When people say you might be dropped, I bet your buttocks clench. You recall those days at Real Madrid when you became half man, half bench. Must be humiliating, but not as bad as that. Advert when you run round a supermarket like a prat. I still recall that one to go you scored against Argentina. But the other day I heard an England fan call you a useless vagina. They say you don't work hard enough, your movement isn't great. But I like you 'cause you got the same hairstyle you had when you were 8. You say you'd back yourself to score. Please don't do that, I insist. The last time you backed yourself, you lost 800 grand in a game of whist. But me, I'll bet with any man who dares to shake my hand. You'll come good again and score for England. Look at Sweden, Michael Owen, still the man.
There are a few things that are interesting about the British coverage, which I wouldn't have known about until I went home. I didn't know that Mick McCarthy, for example, was a co-commentator until I went home, and I have to say, it's just an odd sound.
Is he any good at all?
Well, that's the thing. I think he's perfectly all right, but the voice, you know, is so like that. I can't really do it, but it's so Elvis advert.
He's had a lot of suffering as well.
It makes me want to go a walk up a big street in the sunlight and get some Elvis. Just him talking about football.
Over here, of course, it's Gunter Netzer.
Yeah.
Every game, Gunter Netzer is on. I don't know if you remember Gunter Netzer, the famous German player. Someone should tell Gunter that if you put makeup on to the television, you're supposed to take it off after, not come the next night and put another layer on. So come the weekend, oh God, Gunter looks like a Belisha beacon.
But the BBC, I was just watching the coverage, and I came in halfway through, I think it was just the start of the Argentina game. Then they came to half-time, and you had Lineker, and then you had Hansen, and Ian Wright on the other side. And in the middle was this bloke, who I thought, is that Jean-Michel Jarre? Is that some kind of French pop star? And apparently it's Leonardo, who you've met.
Oh, yeah, my mate, Leonardo. Yeah, I played for the Brazilian '94 World Cup team in Cannes recently.
Can you say that again?
No, it's unbelievable. I know. I got the kit to prove it.
Yeah.
And this bloke, I must admit, I didn't recognise him, and he came up to me and said, I am working for the BBC. And I said, oh, very good. And
He said, oh, very good.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's what you his teacher.
And he said, yes, I'm working with Gary Lineker. And then obviously I waited for him to turn around, and on his back it said Leonardo.
Well, I don't
And
know.
I thought, well, he's not one of the Ninja Turtles. He must be the bloke that played for Brazil.
I should say, in the way that you might expect, the BBC studio is a kind of very nice, floor-to-ceiling windowed, kind of beautiful room. ITV appears to be in Hitler's bunker. What's left of it.
Well,
it's a tiny little space with them all crowded around a big
But in
glass
Germany,
table.
when you get to the pundits in Germany, they're not in a studio. They're in like a giant shopping centre with like 20,000 people. I've never seen anything like it's sort of. The pundits are doing stadium gigs.
No, they're in Brent Cross or something quite often. They appear
enormous place.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get a big crowd for punditry?
Well, we saw, didn't we? We were watching, and they were doing some punditry in an open air space, and Pele suddenly came on.
Yeah.
But no one seemed to know about it. There was only about 20 people standing around, and Pele came on like a boxer with great big lights and a music track.
I watched the Italy-USA game, and they brought Trapattoni on after, and he came on through dry ice.
No.
Yeah, honestly, it was like...
Are you sure it was Trapattoni? It wasn't someone's stars in their eyes saying, tonight, Gunter, I'm going to be Trapattoni.
Look, he couldn't Trapattoni.
No. But JJ Okocha I caught a bit of, who I thought was a really great player. Well, he's a really great player. He's not a good pundit. The problem with JJ Okocha, speaks very, very, very slowly. And you can see the people around him. It's Rude Hullet and it's Stuart Pearce thinking, yeah, come on, JJ, come on, get to the point. And it takes him ages and ages.
Yeah.
Someone who was a very quick player, very slow speaker.
You'd think that Stuart Pearce would start going, come on!
I think he's about to at some point on it. So there were another thing I noticed, actually I've got it here, is Gavin Peacock, who seems to be kind of knocking about the sort of championship league of pundits at the moment.
You've got to start somewhere.
He does his show with Adrian Charles at the end.
Adrian Charles is good.
Adrian Charles is excellent, and I know he's a mate of yours, and I know he's from the same part of the
But
world.
he is good as well.
No, I think he's great. He's got a funny, big old round face, but he's very good.
Well, that's because he's from Great Bar.
Yeah, but this is Gavin Peacock, right? Now, what you may have noticed at home, but I didn't know.
Hold on, you've done a drawing.
I've done a drawing
for the podcast.
Yeah, is that Gavin Peacock? I've never seen such a thin goatee in my life. I mean, literally, I've got a little drawing in front. There's just a line for a moustache and another line there for a chin. And I don't know what he's doing. It must take him ages to shave and get that little amount of hair.
It didn't used to be that little, did he?
No, it never used to. It's something I think he's developed for this World Cup.
Well, the way you've drawn it looks like buttocks on the bottom of his face.
Yes. Well, it's like a very small buttock is at the bottom of his face. And a
you don't want that.
slightly longer buttock is lying across his face. One thing I did notice while I was there is I discovered while I was away that God is a woman. And do you know how I discovered that?
No.
Well, I saw Maradona in the crowd. He's been at a lot of games. And he was
Yes.
in the crowd.
He has, yeah.
And it wasn't mentioned by anyone, but someone gave him a handbag. Right? Well, that's clearly the handbag of God.
Yeah.
Right, obviously.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So what else did you get up to while you was at home?
Well, one thing I did is I went to Jonathan Ross's wife's birthday dinner.
Oh, lovely.
And whilst I was there, I thought I'd do an interview with Jonathan.
I'm very disappointed in the standard of English football, as opposed to the plucky Argentinians who seem to have been born with balls attached to their feet. That backward kick by Arclacchio and then Arantia scored the goal was marvellous, and yet we have what? A couple of... And also our grotesque freaks. You could never see them modelling poses in a magazine. Rooney and Crouch together are two of the ugliest human beings who've ever walked on the planet.
Yeah, I myself decided to wonder if the team has been put together by Ripley of Ripley's Believe It or Not auditorium.
I half expect at the end of the whatever you call the World Cup season, Crouch to turn around and go, "I've had a wonderful time. I'm now going to sleep lying down for the first time." Because he's like the Elephant Man, you see.
Yeah, no, I understand the point of it. Good, you're going to be on the podcast now. Are you pleased about that?
I'm very excited. This is actually my first podcast.
Yeah.
It's not to say I haven't been asked before, just I've never been called at a friend's fucking birthday party when I'm meant to be having a night
That's
off.
an awful thing to do. I feel bad about it.
Hey, did you get my phone call though? I phoned up with a marvellous witticism for your podcast.
I saw that you called, but to be honest, I was on my way back home, so I thought I could see you soon, so I haven't actually listened to it.
Well, I listened to one. I thought you seemed a bit desperate for material because you were going on about mothers breastfeeding children with Coca-Cola, and frankly, it wasn't your best work. So I phoned up to say that I felt that the Polish goalkeeper, with all of his time delays, was possibly auditioning for the East European version of Deal or No Deal, which was really called Pact or Nein Pact, where he walks around and drinks from his coffee while waiting for the phone call from the banker.
That's brilliant. Do you feel that England are going to win the World Cup, Jonathan?
No, I feel they're not going to win the World Cup, and I'll be quite surprised if they get much further than the next round.
Is that it?
Yes, I'm disappointed in that, frankly. Aren't you?
Oh, I think they'll be all right.
You know why you're saying that, and it's quite sweet. You're saying that because you want them to be all right.
Yes, I do want them to be all right.
Realistically and objectively, the standard of their play so far, really, do you think they're up to the standard, the world-class standard of the better teams?
No, they're not. But there is a history in the World Cup of teams starting really badly and playing better as it goes on.
But this is why I can't understand how you can still love football. How can you still love football when you repeatedly get kicked in the bollocks? If they were your girlfriend, you'd have left them years ago.
Well, you know that's not true, for a start.
It is true.
You know that's not true. And secondly, I'm Jewish, and I'm from a race that repeatedly gets kicked in the bollocks. And do we get up again in the words of the Chumbawamba song? No, we don't. We carry on getting kicked in the bollocks. That must be why I like England.
We need some kind of final solution for your addiction to football, then.
That must be it. How can we do that? How can we organise? We are in Germany, of course. I can ask them.
Oh, you had to say that, didn't you? You had to say that after John.
Do you know we got a thing, an email today saying, "I like your podcast very much, but can you stop talking about Nazis and concentration camps and do more jokes about sausages?"
Can I be honest with you? I'd forgotten all about the Nazis till you mentioned them again.
Had you? I don't believe that. I've always thought I think you yourself would look very good in a Nazi uniform.
What do you mean thought? You've seen me in a Nazi uniform. You know I look hot in a Nazi uniform.
Yeah.
You've asked me to wear it on several occasions.
I have, yeah.
And boss you around a little bit.
In fact, you look good in it now, listeners. Jonathan Ross, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's have some of that. Is that it?
That's it, yeah. Right, well, it's competition time, I believe.
It is. Always a good moment.
Yeah. Now, before we do the competition, for which, as you may know, you can win a Dodge Caliber, we've had an email about the Dodge Caliber. Worried, I would say. Joe Jones.
Joe Jones, oh God.
Has he got a life, Joe Jones, or does he just email us all the time?
Well, that is his life.
But he says, in the last podcast, you said you were driven to the England versus Trinidad and Tobago game in the Dodge. Does this mean that the prize is now a second-hand motor?
God forbid.
The Dodge Caliber, a second-hand Rose.
There's two things I resent about that. First of all, the idea that Dodge would dream of giving away a second-hand car as a competition prize.
That they are some kind of second-hand car dealers.
And secondly, the fact that us driving a car would make it cheaper. Surely it would make it more expensive.
That's a good point. It'd be a car with a blue plaque, surely.
Yeah, it'd be like...
If you could get that out of the bodywork. Probably quite difficult.
It'd be like Elvis's, gold Cadillac.
Exactly.
That's what if we could sell it with the flags on and all that. What happens to that one, actually? What happens
to that particular Dodge Caliber?
The one that drives us to the game.
I've fallen so in love with it, I think I'm going to have it. I don't know about you.
No, that's all right. You can have it.
Oh, thank you. Because I tell you what I love about it. I tell you
what do you love about it?
What I really love about it. And I was once watching Top Gear. I don't really watch Top Gear very often. And Quentin...
Do you ever smoke Top Gear?
Yeah. And Quentin, whatever his name is, who's on
Crisp?
that. No, I wish it was Quentin Crisp.
I'd like to see it. That's top queer.
Hey.
Fop queer.
What's going on? It's turned into some terrible pun.
Sorry, I've gone through the pun ceiling. If Quentin's listening...
he's opened a pun of
he's
words.
doing it through a medium.
Anyway, the bloke called Quentin on that, I remember he was revving a car, and he said this thing which was so Top Gear. He was revving it, he was going, and this car, it sounds like the devil clearing his throat. And I'm going to say this thing about the Dodge Caliber rather like that. The new Dodge Caliber, this is what I love about it. 2.0 diesel engine packs a punch. 0.60 in 8.8 seconds.
Huh?
That's what I love about it.
You know, I never knew it was a diesel engine.
Didn't you?
No?
I didn't know that either.
Well,
I don't really know what the difference is.
Well, you have to put diesel in it.
Yeah. I always thought diesel meant it was like a train.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, well, it's a bit like a train
Is it?
in its reliability.
Yeah, and in the fact that it gets
Anyway,
you from A
let's
to
do
B.
the bloody voice.
Is it time
we
for
have to play a mystery voice?
I forgot about that bit.
We play a mystery voice, and at the end of it, these 15 mystery voices will make up our own fictional World Cup squad. I say fictional, they're real people. This is...
A defender?
Don't give the clues.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say that, am I?
Oh, well, you've done it now. Anyway, and it is... I think this is quite easy. This is mystery voice number 6.
So, after that, my head wouldn't stop bleeding.
So that was mystery voice number 6.
Yeah, and we've had an email from Mike Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
He used to captain the Wolves in the 70s. And it says, perhaps Dodge's next vehicle could be called the Dodge Bollocks.
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Do you think they might do that?
Well, I don't know if they'll go for it.
What worries me is that if they have the cooled refrigeration as standard, the whole car might shrink. That's what worries me.
Also, if it's the dog's bollocks, it'll have to all be purple.
Yeah, and also perhaps the bonnet will be able to touch the engine.
I don't get that.
Dogs lick their own
Oh,
bollocks.
of course they do, yeah. That's...
Did you read this thing in the news? I heard it when I was back in England as well, that at the Ivory Coast-Holland game, apparently 400 Dutch fans had been asked to remove their trousers. I mean, they were wearing lederhosen, orange lederhosen, because they were branded with the name of a sponsor of a beer that wasn't one of the official sponsors. So they had to watch the Ivory Coast game in their pants.
Really?
Did you know that? And what worried me about that is that I don't know who all the official partners are of FIFA. If Calvin Klein is one of their official partners, that someone would have asked them to remove their pants as well.
Yeah, well, it said that some England fans had their Nike T-shirts removed because that didn't fit in with I think Adidas, the sponsor or something. Can it be true, that?
I don't know. Is that true? I mean, if you're one of those England fans who that happened to, I think I'd be interested to know if they really made you... Because presumably, with it being as hot as it is here, if they made you remove your T-shirt and then you got very bad sunburn, you could sue FIFA for that. And their official bloody partners.
Well, it's also some people have the Nike symbol sort of cut into their hair. You must have
So they have to remove their hair?
Well, I think they actually have official partner hairdressers who sort of put an Adidas in there.
Something that I did read when I was at home in the papers that I have to say did make me laugh, which was about Craig Forrest, who you may remember was an Ipswich goalkeeper.
I do remember Craig Forrest.
Yeah, and he's apparently an anchorman now in Canada.
Yeah.
And someone said to him, Craig, how will the Mexican goalkeeper approach this game given what's happened to him this week? And Forrest said, well, his father passed away on Thursday. He'll be disappointed with that. And that is brilliant, Craig. The idea that you can apply footballing commentator cliches to anything in your life.
Oh, man.
That is totally brilliant. Do you think Craig, like when his wife gives birth, says, come on, you can give it 110%?
I saw a punk band at Barbarella's in Birmingham in the late 70s, and this guy came on and said, I wrote a song about my father who died recently. It's called Dead Dad! And then they went into it, and I thought, that's a very moving, very moving title.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that now I have with me Paul Robson from Showboat.
Hello!
Paul, I was wondering how you felt about France drawing with South Korea, and whether you felt they were essentially playing a team of aged Galacticos who need some new blood.
Well, it's always tough to replace great players, and we don't think France done that at all.
Paul Robson, thank you very much.
No problem. Oh, by the way, I'd like to do a song of my own. Will you join me? Oh, will you join me?
Well, we normally just do the football comment, but I suppose we could...
No, it won't be complicated. Roachy can join in as well if you'll join me in my song.
All right, then.
Michael Owen's gonna score, hallelujah, like he's always done before, hallelujah. They say that nowadays he is crap, hallelujah. Yes, and Gary Glitter is a very nice chap, hallelujah. They say maybe Michael Owen's too old, hallelujah. Sure, and Kate Moss just got a bad head cold, hallelujah. Lot of people slagging Michael off, hallelujah. I agree with that big brother guy who twitches and coughs. Wankers! Hallelujah. Oh, Michael Owen, he's gonna score, hallelujah, like he's always done before, hallelujah. Goodness.
So we've had loads of emails. We had one from Jig69, actually, and he talks about nicknames. You mentioned that I always say Stephen Gerard, and I said that's because he used to be a horse called Brigadier Gerard, and he said he's always called Stevie G the Brigadier, after that famous 70s racehorse, and he said, and also in homage to the 70s Doctor Who stalwart who helped to avert national disaster on countless occasions.
I don't think that's very true, because the thing about the Brigadier in Doctor Who that I remember is that he was always on the point of completely screwing up saving the world, and then Doctor Who had to help him out.
Yeah.
And so if Gerard is the Brigadier, then who's Doctor Who? That's my concern.
Who do you think?
Well, no one at the moment.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who, exactly.
Oh,
Right,
well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
Or possibly the Doctor, who's coming to look at Roo and saying it's okay for him to play.
I don't think they come anymore now.
No. We've had an email about you, which is sort of from, I presume, someone, a black countryman or whatever of yours. Beats That Go Boom 7, he calls himself.
Right.
Perhaps you could help me with this, Frank. About 3 Sundays ago, I was getting out of my car in a place called Charlton Kings near Cheltenham. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
When I reckon you walked past me with some bird, he says.
Yeah, that would have been my very lovely girlfriend.
Okay. Well, I thought to myself, why is Frank Skinner in Charlton Kings? And more to the point, why is he wearing an Ozfest T-shirt, some tracksuit bottoms, and a gagool? Did he see you in 1982?
No, he saw me, as he said, about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Anyway, he says, I told our local taxi driver, Fatty, who I'd just seen. By the way, he just says our local taxi driver, Fatty. If you're listening, Fatty, I'm really sorry. I can't help it. That's just what he calls you.
Kids' names nowadays.
And he reckons, Fatty this is, I'd just seen your brother, Kenny, who is the spit of you, your brother, Kenny.
I haven't got a brother.
You haven't got a brother called Kenny, have you? What he's talking about is Kenny in South Park. He wears a gagool, doesn't he?
Oh, is that what the joke is about the cagoule?
I don't think so. And also apparently Kenny also drives taxis in Cheltenham. Was it you that I saw? I'm confused. Help me. Cheers, bloke.
Well, it was me. I don't have a brother called Kenny.
Right.
And I don't know Fatty, the Cheltenham taxi driver.
It was you, and you were wearing the Ozfest T-shirt and all that stuff.
That was me, yes.
I see. Okay.
And is it true that Victoria Beckham calls Peter Crouch Fatty?
Yeah, I think she might do. Talking of Peter Crouch, what do we think is going to happen with it? The thing about the England-Sweden game, right, that I'm confused about, is that there's a lot of talk about Germany and Ecuador and all that stuff, but Sven has just been saying, I don't care about any of that, I'm going to play the players to win the group. As if winning the group in and of itself is an achievement.
Well, it is.
Well, it's a very small achievement. No one remembers after a World Cup when a team hasn't won it or hasn't got to the final. Well, yeah, but they won Group C. You know, he worries about that?
No, but I think he wants to boost our confidence because we're not looking all that good at the moment.
Yeah, but won't it boost our confidence more if we very, very cleverly arrange to come second in order to meet Ecuador? That'll make us kind of shrewd and you know.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
I don't know how you do it.
How do you lose a game like that?
Well, presumably by being shit.
No, but usually when we lose
England have been practising for quite a long time
No, but
now.
we always do it in a very spectacular penalty shootout, last minute, blah, blah, and all that stuff. Also, judging by the first 2 appearances, how are we going to know if they are trying to lose?
No,
it's going to
we
be
won't
hard to
know.
spot
No,
that.
we'll never spot it.
It's no good saying, oh, look, that's a bit suspicious. Crouchy missed that absolute sitter. and the ball just hit him across the ear then instead of the normal forehead.
Yeah,
for a...
clearly they're throwing the game. No, that's not going to happen.
So I tell you, if you took those 2 performances and showed them at a FIFA tribunal, they'd never make the charge stick, ever.
I'll tell you though, Brazil have been playing no better. It looks to me like they want to win the group. Don't want to win the group.
Can I just say that I watched an interview with Lars Lagerback.
Who is that?
That's the manager of Sweden.
Is it Lars Lagerback?
Isn't it brilliant that he's called Lagerback?
Yeah, it is fantastic. Lars Lagerback.
Lars Lagerback, there's something in it. There's a bit of lipstick on the glass.
Yeah.
And he was talking, it's the most Swedish thing that I've seen on telly for a long time, since Abel won the Eurovision Song Contest, because he said... he said the tactics that Sven Goran uses never really change, and the fact that he calls him
Sven Goran.
Sven Goran, yeah.
That is fabulous.
Well,
that's interesting. Though. Because I was reading something when I was in England, some reference to Sven, and they called him Svenis, which I think is what Ulrika calls him. But I've always thought that
She calls him Svenis.
Yes, but I've always thought that Svenis was her sort of pet name for him because she's Swedish, not just because she had seen his Svenis.
Yeah.
I always thought it was...
She's probably seen his canal. That's why she calls him Svenis.
Svenis Canal?
Yes.
But, yeah, I would have thought he'd say Svenis Goran. He just said Sven Goran.
Yeah, he said... You know when you see these like Russian things and people say, oh, Rimballish Faraparafish, where are you going to... They use the full name. I've never heard him call Sven Goran before.
I'm not sure about that. You see, I think it might be that the official FIFA phone partner is Orange and not Ericsson. And I thought he's not allowed to mention it.
You did very well there, because the official FIFA phone partner, it's not very easy to say, is it?
No, it's not. I think it's
a bit like that
it is, in fact, T-Mobile.
It's like that Paul Whitehouse, that sounded like. It is T-Mobile.
Of course it's T-Mobile. So you were saying that the other team that's been playing...
That'd be a great name for a tea-trolley manufacturer, wouldn't it?
T-Mobile. Yeah.
Yes, well, I think that Brazil, the great mighty Brazil, who everyone loves and thinks is brilliant, are basically England at the moment. They've had 2 lacklustre performances. One, the first one, 1-0. The second one, 2-0 with like a late goal.
Yeah.
And they're through, but no one's very sure. And their star striker has been going off after about an hour, and everyone's been slagging him off.
And looking a bit upset and unhappy on the bench, and no one really knows what's going on.
Well, yeah. I mean, as we were saying earlier, Michael Owen is actually playing pretty well, I think.
Well, Michael Owen's playing much better than Ronaldo. And he isn't. You don't have this sense with Michael Owen that there's something actually gone kind of genetically wrong with him.
No, well, it was difficult to judge the game, though, wasn't it?
It was very difficult because it was one of those things. I don't know if you're having this problem in England, because I know having been that the weather is also pretty sunny, and you're watching the game during the day. But we're in a hotel, and it's got these kind of like very sheer curtains that you get in a hotel. And I remember this from my days as a student watching daytime television. Often I'll be sitting there with the curtains essentially nailed shut and still thinking, why is there a rhomboid of light on the television?
Well, there's always a little gap at the top of the curtains, and that always finds its way onto the screen, and you get like this horrible grey ghost of a sliver down the
I know, but it's no good, because particularly because you're over there, you think, oh, I'll just go over there and shut the curtains, and that's when they score, almost definitely. It's just as you're trying to get rid of that patch of light.
Yeah, but the thing is with that Brazil-Australia game, there was lights on the pitch, which seemed to suggest that there was curtains not quite pulled to on the stadium.
Yeah, somewhere on the stadium. But we liked them. We enjoyed the game, even though it was another quite dull Brazil performance, for a couple of reasons. One was that Fred came on. Right?
Yes.
For which I don't mean Flintstone. I mean a bloke came on called Fred. Now, as we know, the Brazilians choose their own nicknames these days. They're normally some play on Ronald, but they are, at least, they've got a bit of glamour to them, Ronaldo or Ronaldinho, whatever. Fred, how much thought did he give to that? Do you think he said Fred and someone said right? And that he said, well, that's it then.
No, presumably he said right.
Yeah, it's slightly confusing, yeah. Oh dear. But he scored as well. He looked very good, Fred. I think that'll be interesting. But maybe Fred will be a great player. But I think he'll have a problem acquiring iconic status because his name's Fred.
It's true. He'll probably change it to something else. You're quite right. You can't have a big superstar player called Fred.
No, cartoon name.
Yeah, there'd be like Posh and Fred.
Yeah, it sounds rubbish. And the other thing that we thought...
I suggest he should lose his Fred.
For about the 100th time, I thought, as Roberto Carlos went up to take a free kick and blast it over the bar, I thought, when is someone going to tell, probably someone on the Brazilian team, Roberto, that he's not very good from free kicks? I don't know, the myth started from one kick that I've seen a number of times on telly and on the internet where the ball bent amazingly around the wall. Apart from that, I don't think I've ever seen him score from a free kick.
Well, he kicks it really hard. I'll give him that. But
Yeah.
it's like that old joke about the bloke who takes the gorilla to the golf course. Remember that? And he hits a driver about 350 yards. It lands on the green.
Yeah.
And the bloke says, I'll give you £1 million for that gorilla. It's fantastic. And then when he goes to pot, he hits it for another 350 yards. Because that's all he can do. And I think Roberto Carlos is like that.
No,
he
he
can
is.
basically kick it really hard. 'Cause he's got them big thighs, isn't he?
Yeah.
I heard it said, though, and I don't know if this is definitely true, that Ronaldo's contract to Real Madrid means they have to pick him in the first team if he's fit.
Well, it's always been that thing, because we were at France 1998 final. There's always been a thing that Nike actually kind of put pressure on Brazil to play Ronaldo.
Yes, but there's no evidence.
There's no evidence for it.
God, no.
God, there's no evidence for it at all.
No, it can't be true, can it?
No, but I think Ronaldo is not long.
Also,
for this.
because Brazil are sponsored by Nike, so one of these days they're going to turn up at the game and someone's going to say, sorry, you've got to take those shirts off.
So another email we had was about...
Who was it from?
It's from Kabir Garilali. Is that right? Kabir Garilali or something. And he asks, or she asks, if Ecuador top their group due to, say, a lame draw in Group A's final game, do you think England should then aim to lose their game to Sweden to avoid Germany's? What an odd game that would be, he says, with both teams trying to score as many own goals as possible to avoid Germany, or are Ecuador the real threat? Well, someone who may be able to answer that, in some sense, is the man we have at the Times doing the think tank, Daniel Finkelstein. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Dan.
Now, you're our statistics probability man. Do you think it would be better for England to basically make sure, in whichever way possible, that they can avoid Germany?
We would be much better off facing Ecuador. Don't get distracted by one or two games. We've got to do this over, we've done our statistical simulations over many, many thousands of games, and Ecuador are a much inferior team to Germany, and they're also away, where Germany are at home, and so therefore we'd be playing them on neutral territory. So whereas we've actually got, against Germany, we're only a 45% chance of winning, in Ecuador, against Ecuador, a 67% chance of winning. Right. So there's a much greater chance of winning, and going on, therefore, later to win what my 6-year-old called the FIFA World Cup.
Is that the Michelle Pfeiffer World Cup?
I don't see why it shouldn't be FIFA World Cup. Why is it FIFA? Anyway, that's another point.
Yeah. Well, I think 67% of people say FIFA and the rest say FIFA. So what are actually the chances at the moment, forgetting about whether or not England throw the game or not, what are the chances of England beating Sweden?
The chance of England beating Sweden are 44%, Sweden winning is 30%, and a draw is 26%. And that's obviously very close in our sort of statistics. So that is a very hard game. A draw's got to be quite a large likelihood. In those circumstances, 1-1 draws always stick out as the most likely result. That doesn't mean to say we're not favourites. We are, but 1-1 has got to be a good chance of that.
So, and what about us? And what about Germany, Ecuador?
Well, the chances of Ecuador beating Germany are only 16% for all that everyone talks that up, and Germany winning is 64%, but there is a 20% chance of a draw, so there's a 36% chance that Ecuador will get the draw they need, or the win.
Well, I can tell you, Dan, that we had an email from a regular correspondent of ours called Joe Jones. He said that you should bring out a book and called the Dan Finky Code.
Well, I might take his advice, but not sure about the title.
Oh, I think that's fine.
I think if you're not sure about the title, who else will be?
It's a fine title. Anyway, it's good to talk. So, according to you, I think just about we're going to beat Sweden. Germany are going to beat Ecuador, and we'll be playing Ecuador in the first knockout
The chance of us beating Ecuador, of us meeting Ecuador, 56%. The chance of us meeting Germany, 44%.
Okay. All right, Dan.
Cheers, then.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye. That was Baddiel and Skinner's World Cup podcast. The next one will be after the Sweden game. It's quite difficult to say Sweden without going all Muppets, like, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Sweden game. Now, I think that's going to be the one when we suddenly start playing like a World Cup winning team.
Will we soar like a mighty eagle?
I think the Germans will probably soar like a mighty lion.
We will indeed.
Fired out of a circus cannon.
Yes, like a lion with wings.
like a lion with no shorts on. Go, Leo.
Listen to the unofficial voice of World Cup 2006, brought to you by Times Online and Avalon in association with the new Dodge Calibre.